Okay. All right. The recording has started. So, just a quick recap again. We're in chapter 2. Yesterday we started reading chapter 1. So please make sure that you continue to finish reading chapter 1. It will chapters 1, 2, and 4. I think we're doing will be part of your midterm next week. Please remember to do your participation by 10 p.m. It's how you get attendance. I think I saw 1 or 2 people that did not do their assignment, and they suffered with me for the first half hour or so, and then they didn't do their assignment, and you cannot receive participation and attendance if you do not do the participation question that I will give you at the end of the session. So, does everyone understand that in order to receive attendance, you must do that question? Okay. Secondly, how did we do on our long term goals? How did we do on our long term goals? Was it harder than you thought? I know sometimes thinking, like, what do I want to do in 10 years? That's a little bit more difficult, right? Because you may have to do some research. And if there are some of us that haven't said it yet because you want to make sure it's right, it's totally fine. You have, until Sunday to get that done. But, making a commitment to a long term goal can be difficult. Does anyone have any questions about anything before we get started with chapter 2? All right. Well, chapter 2 piggybacks off of chapter 1. We're going to continue to talk about skills, right? We're going to continue to talk about skills. And we know now that, skills are, clearly we need to be skilled. That's why we're in school. But, categorizing skills is something that we probably never thought about. Like, tonight we'll discuss basic skills. Yesterday we talked about technical or hard skills. Tonight we'll also dig a little bit deeper into soft skills and, why those different skill types are important. You may be surprised to learn that companies, yes, they are definitely interested in your technical skills. You would not be in school if they were not. They also expect you to have some basic skills. I mean, not surprisingly, they want you to be able to know how to read and write and speak fluently, good listening skills. And I think everybody here can say math skills are important, right? But maybe you didn't realize that they also want you to have technology skills. We opened up that conversation yesterday talking about how technology has permeated through a lot of different industries. And, when you are using, computers, because you will have to use computers in some capacity, some of you more than others. They expect you to have those skills, and we're going to dig into a little bit more of the type of software applications that you'll probably be using at your job here in a minute. But when it comes to soft skills, yesterday I said to you that hard skills, we also called them technical skills. Well, soft skills, chapter 2 also refers to them as employability skills, foundational skills, transferable skills. That is because many of us come with soft skills. Some of your soft skills are part of your personality, right? Some of your soft skills are part of, your upbringing, or it could be part of, like me, if we're in the military, we, the military really thrives on, having a huge value system. And so they teach you a lot of different things like time management. Like there's no such thing as being late in the military for obvious reasons, right? So most military people, they always show up early, right? They say, hurry up and wait. That is the motto in the military. So, it's no surprise that a lot of military people, are always on time for that reason. But when we think about soft skills, here you'll see chapter 2 will break it down into these 3 different categories. One is thinking skills. What does that mean? People want you to be able to think critically, and we'll dig into that further in the course. What does critical thinking even means? Well, yes, one thing is, being a good problem solver. Companies want you to be a problem solver. Let's face it, you're not walking into a perfect situation, are you? When you go to a job, there's going to be issues just because you're dealing with people and you deal with life. There's going to be things that you have to deal with, and they want to know, do you know how to problem solve? Whether it's you got a project, something goes wrong, you got a difficult customer, or, you have to deal with a coworker, you have to deal with your boss. Can you think critically, or are you going to be the type of person that has problems but you just don't ever have solutions? I'm going to tell you right now that is going to be a big no-go for most organizations. They want you to be able to think critically. Secondly, they want you to have good people skills, right? I mean, obviously you are going to be engaging with people, whether it's customers, coworkers, project teams. You may have to work across teams. We call that interdisciplinary. You may, if you're on a construction site and you're on an HVAC team, but there's going to be electrical, there's going to be, you know, other types of individuals that you may have to engage with. Like, can you do that and, work effectively with these individuals, right? They also want you to be able to have good personal qualities. What is that? Like, are you an agreeable person? Are you someone that, can be flexible? That is going to be important. Um, just as important as it is for you to be technical. I don't know, we don't have to rat anybody out, but have we ever met anyone that is really good at the work that they do? Let's say they have some really great technical skills, but people skills, it's I already see a couple thumbs, right? People skills is just not one of their strong suits, right? But they could definitely do the work, right? And sometimes, let me tell you, and a lot of people get really upset about um, being passed over. Maybe we've known someone, or maybe even unfortunately, maybe ourselves, that have gotten passed over because we were maybe really good at our job, but we just did not have maybe the personal skills that they needed, right? Um, Camuel, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I'm not sure what we're seeing on your video, but you just might want to check your video really quickly, right? So, Mr. Williams might want to check your video. It looks not sure what
That's
that
my
is.
island flag.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I just didn't want any other of the students to be distracted. We thought it was a ghost. We didn't know what that was. All right. So it's going to be important, but let me tell you something else that is going to be critically important is ethics. Now, you may have heard this word before. Um, Sometimes we think about it when it comes to doing the right thing, and that means different things for different people. So some of us come with our own moral principles, right? Things that we believe are correct. But a lot of workplaces have their own set of principles, and many of them will make sure that you know what that is. Again, when I was in the military and when I was in banking, ethics was a huge thing for obvious reasons. In the military, we would have to carry around our little cards. Anybody was in the military that had those little cards you had to carry around in your front pocket, and it talked about your values and what you stand for, and you had to recite it at any given time. When I was in finance and banking, we also had that. They would splatter the values across, the walls because they wanted to remind people to do the right thing. And let me tell you, people still did the wrong thing. You're talking about money, so anytime you deal with money, you deal with people that are going to be whatever. But yeah, a couple people got in trouble for doing things that are unscrupulous because human nature, right? But companies go out of their way to ensure that you do have these good ethics. In business, they tend to separate them, and it's important for you to remember the distinction between the two. One is called the code of conduct. What does that mean? That means how you behave. It dictates how you behave while you're at work. The other is code of ethics. That dictates how you do the company's business, right? So one is about how you conduct yourself, and the other is about how you conduct business, i.e., you don't cut corners. How you serve the customer. They may have a whole system, a 15-point system that they want you to use, and they want you to go by the book, right? So those are equally important. You have to remember that you are operating on behalf of an institution, right? So their reputation is only as good as the people that they have working for them. And that is why this is so important to a lot of institutions. Something else you're going to really need to be aware of and cognizant of is the difference between what is unethical and what is illegal. Every last one of you are going to be working in industries where you can get yourself in trouble for something unethical and something illegal. Here's the difference: one gets you fired, one gets you in court. And if you do something illegal, your company can't help you. Maybe they can help you get a lawyer, but that's about it. You don't want to get fired and get and get sent to court about something that you did, right? The book talks about the obvious ones like discrimination or harassment, but it could be anything that is illegal. So it's going to be important for you to know, right? Obviously, if you're in the VA program, you can't take home medicine. you know, I don't know what's up with those tranquilizers, but we see it on those crazy shows, right? People, animal tranquilizers tend to be the drug of choice for some strange reason. But, you can't, you know, do anything illegal. You can't take home supplies. You can't overuse things. Can't, like, if you are in construction, cutting side deals with customers and saying, "Oh no, I know the company charges 1,000 for that, but I'll only charge you 500. Don't tell anybody. Now come over on Saturday and do it." Y'all, we all know those things, right? Like, so you just have to be very mindful of that. Like, you don't want to ever get yourself in trouble. Obviously, which in chapter 2 it talks about really extreme things like, discrimination and harassment, which are illegal, right? You'd be surprised how these two different things come up so much, and you may not even think about, you're being harassing or you're being discriminatory. you know what if one of your coworkers have sight issues, and maybe you're the supervisor, and the person has, a doctor's note saying that, they need extra support because they have really poor vision. For whatever reason, they got hired, or maybe they could have had an accident while they were hired, and now they have this issue. And so, you think it's funny, and you going around talking about the person's eyesight, and we can't put blind Bob on the job, and the next thing you get struck with a lawsuit because you may have thought that you were just, horsing around, but that's discriminatory. So you have to be very, very mindful, of, your actions when you are working on behalf of someone else. Clearly, harassment is a big one. A lot of times people don't even know the protocol for how harassment works. Now, I'm not going to get into it. I do teach HR certification, because a lot of times people say, okay, well, how do you know when you have harassed someone? Well, most times from a legal perspective, it's, you do something that someone doesn't like, they tend to have to tell you. They have to say, hey, I don't like that. You do it again, that's when it's harassment. Most times when it happens the first time, it's not considered harassment. They have to verbally express to you that, they don't like it. And then if you do it again, then there you go. Now you're in trouble. But again, take the lead from your HR department on what that looks like. And then, obviously for me, I say just exercise good judgment. You're there to work, right? You're not there to do anything else. That's the best way to stay out of trouble. Something else that you are also going to have to be mindful of is your use of technology. I don't know how many of you have social platforms, how many of you may use Twitter, and maybe you are very engaging on there, but unfortunately, my friends, once you become a professional, you become an agent of the institution. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you become an agent of an institution, and companies can fire you based on what you put out in the public. They can let you go. So you may say, well, that's my personal business. Well, personal business is not personal once you put it out to the public, right? Maybe you like to, I don't know, talk to yourself a lot outside. Maybe you like talking to trees. Or if you're doing it in your backyard, talking to your trees, that's the thing. I actually saw that online. That's fine. But if you're going up and down the street talking to oak trees and stuff like that, and somebody takes a picture of you and they say, "Oh, Mr. Bernard is nuts," and it gets out and you work for a company, y'all see where this is going, right? That could affect your job, right? Who wants, talking to Tree Billy Bob over here representing their company? Like that could affect it. So what you do in public, and I think a lot of people don't realize that social media is public. It's public. So for me, I say you got to really think that through. Recently, there was a teacher in Florida that lost her job because she had a friendly page, and y'all use y'all imagination, and it was discovered by a student and a parent, and she got fired. Now, some people say, "Oh, that was her personal business." I'm like, "Yeah, but would you want your sixth grader social studies teacher?" And nowadays, these teachers tell their students to go do research online. Anybody have kids? Any of your kids use online all the time, and they're on social media, right? And let's say they find their teacher. Roberto, you wanted to say something, or you were just saying yes? How would you feel? Give me a thumbs up if you would have a problem with, Miss Mr. Thompson, the social studies teacher's special page being found by your student if they were trying to do their homework. We might be a little upset about that. Like that's extreme, right? So I was like, man, you gotta get a part-time job. I know, teaching doesn't pay that well, but it can't be that. It can't be that, right? So it is what it is. So remember, everything you put out there, it doesn't even have to be that extreme. Maybe you're very politically slanted and you like to jar with people online. Maybe you just do it for fun, but depending upon what you say, people can find that. Anything you put online is public. We call that your digital footprint. And when you post things online, if it's found and if it's very egregious and your company gets wind of it, or most times it's not even the company, what's happening? Somebody finds out you work for that company and then they start, giving that company a hard time because of what you've done. So part of being a professional is having to curtail that. Does that mean, Miss Taylor, a lot of professionals don't post online? Yep, that's exactly what it means. That's exactly what it means. You won't find too many professional people, that have jobs that are sensitive. Let me put it out there like that. Posting online, you just won't find it, right? Now, if they have their own business or they have jobs where it's not a big deal, or as the saying goes, they're in their grandmother's basement, yeah, maybe they don't care. But most of us, we do care and we try to protect what we've worked hard for. So, getting back to these technology skills, a lot of companies are using what we call remote servers. It's also known as cloud. And what that basically means is they keep all of their company on a cloud server. We're on a server now. Microsoft Teams is, part of the Microsoft suite of offerings, and we're on the cloud, right? That means we're just on a remote server. So a lot of companies use Google or Microsoft, and you just need to know how to use it. You're on here now, you're on Microsoft, you know how to use it. If you have a Google account and you ever go to your Google Drive, you'll see it, right? Google has, Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, Google Presentations, whereas Microsoft has the terminology Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Word. So, they both have online modalities now. And that just means they're on the cloud. Again, most companies are using cloud-based systems to store their information. And you may have to just know that for whatever reason, especially if you're dealing with clients or customers and you have to work remotely. One thing I am going to say, my friends, please do not download anything personal on these people's computers. Don't watch anything personal. Do not go to your personal site on these people's computers. I do not care if they give you their computer. Anything that you put on your company's computer is the property of that company. Let me tell y'all how I almost got myself in trouble. I used I used to do taxes years ago, and I was a professor at a different school. And I was a professor for many, many years at that school. And I used to do a couple of people's taxes, for free. They were just my friends, whatever. And then I became the operations manager, campus operations manager for that school. And the that I did their taxes for, they just happened to live across the street from the school. And one day she comes over and she says, "Hey, print my taxes out for me." I'm not thinking anything of it. I print her taxes out. People use company printers to print stuff out all the time. Well, fast forward, like maybe 8 months later, I turn in my laptop to get an upgraded laptop. It is common for the computer office, the IT team, to scrub it of information, of private information, right? And what happens? Her social security pops up as a flag. Because what in the world am I doing with her social security? They did a whole investigation on me. They called her. She wasn't allowed to tell me. And so finally, once they realized, oh, it's probably nothing, they told me what happened. And I was like under investigation for having her social security number. Nothing came of it. Obviously, I was so mad. I was so mad because I knew the IT guy. I was like, dude, are you serious? Would you think I stole her social security number? When I tell you I was upset, I was upset. Excuse me for 1 minute, guys. One of your colleagues is trying to get on, but I don't know. She just texted me. I'm trying not to look. Oh wow. And then she did the text I say don't ever do. It's like 3 pages long. I can't read it. I have to I told y'all don't do that. I'm not gonna read it. Okay, I have to call her back. Hopefully she'll be all right. All right. Um, if you ever are having issues, guys, um, call me. I know that's going to sound rude, but if you can't get into the class, I'd rather you call me because I can't like talk to the students and try to read a text. So just call me and I'll pick up really quickly because I'll probably know it's a student, or just say I can't get in, something really quick so I can see what I need to do because right now, obviously, I can't help her. But at any rate, so yeah, that's my story. Don't get yourself in trouble. Obviously, if you download something you're not supposed to download, that could be an issue, especially if it has a virus on it. Clearly, you can't give away anything that's personal to the computer, I mean, to the company, intellectual property that may belong to them. Anything about what they're doing, any contract, if your company sells any product or services, obviously you need to be mindful of that. Secondly, like I was saying, being mindful of what you do online. Sometimes your company may even have you post stuff online. I know that may seem like many of you may say, "What?" Yeah. Maybe even in your company, you don't know what type of company you're going to go work for. Some of you are going to go work for really small companies. Some of you are going to go work for really big companies. Some of you may go work for the government. So you're going to be doing some of this other stuff outside of your day to day work. And if you ever have to go online and do anything like that, you just want to be mindful of how you post. Like, again, what I was saying before, if you have Twitter fingers and you like fussing with people on the internet, just don't, just don't. Even if you have to engage with your peers, just use proper etiquette. Don't be mindful of how you communicate, how you send things. Sometimes you don't even want your colleagues to, you know, have, misgivings about something that you said, and you can get yourself in trouble with that, right? So there are some rules to netiquette. Remember, people are human. You're not talking to a computer. You're talking. There's a person on the other end of that, right? Know where you are. Know where you're posting stuff. Respect other people. Try to make yourself look good online because of that digital footprint. People can come back and find things about you. You just don't want that drama. Make sure you respect others. That is just common, right? Common things are not so common nowadays, but just don't say anything that you wouldn't say to a person's face, like, because you never know. Hey, that 6 degrees of separation is real. Anybody ever heard of that? 6 degrees of separation. There's always somebody that you know that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that circles back that knows somebody, and the world has gotten a lot smaller. Is it not true? So you really, really need to be careful, especially that you guys are all going into your own respective industries. Industries are small. I know it's a big old world, but industries are small. And I've seen people have to circle back to jobs, circle back to people that they know. Like, if you're in your industry for a long time, you're going to get to know the major players, right? So just be mindful of how you're presenting yourself, all right? So, chapter 2 also talks about certifications and how, it's going to help you with your status. We'll talk more about that when we get into, building out your long term career. So, just read up on that. It'll talk about that and how some of you are going to have to, prepare for those certifications. I think all of you have some type of certification that you'll need if you want to move up in your career. And then also, I think what we talked about yesterday, I was talking about your persona, but we'll talk about that later. So here's what I want to do. Now, unfortunately, the morning crew has already gotten a start on this, so you guys hurry up and do it. What we told you, and don't mind the dates, this is just a screenshot, it's not the actual dates. Um, you will be meeting with career services twice, right? So you're going to meet with career services to do your resume review, and you're going to meet with them in week 3 for a practice interview. We call it a mock interview. Now, here's the thing, don't try to schedule them both at the same time because your resume is something that they're going to do now. You want to get that on the books now. Like there's people have already started, scheduling their these meetings. Get that on the book now so that they can look at your resume. If it looks good, they're just going to sign off on it and give it back to you, and you're going to turn it in next Thursday. If you don't have a resume, don't worry about it. They're going to help you get one. It doesn't have to be the one that you're going to use forever, but it's just one to say, okay, I worked with career services. Here's a starter resume. They signed off on it. They're going to give it back to you. And then next Thursday, you're going to turn it in as an assignment. They may not even have you come in the office. So don't freak out about the times. This assignment, once you click on it, go to your respective campus, and some of you can just, fill out the little application right there and it'll book you an appointment. Some of you have to call. Some of you are already at the campus, so I'm sure they'll help you do that. But the main thing is just come back to this assignment and tell me the times and dates. So you're going to book one, and you can, in the assignment, it'll tell you the dates to book it through for resume, and it'll also tell you the dates to book it through for your mock interview. And then come back to the assignment and just put the dates and time in. Does everyone understand?
They already did my resume already, so I just gotta probably just
Yeah, so
print.
still, whenever they did it, just put the date and time in. So this should be an easy A for you. Still go into that assignment and just put it was done on July 1st. Just put something so I know. But they still have to sign off on it and give it back to you. So even if they've already did it, that's great, right? So whoever did it, you say, hey, put your signature on this so I can turn it in next week. But also set up your appointment now for week 3 for your mock interview. And then just come back to that assignment and give me those 2 times. Does everyone understand? All right, guys. All right. Now, here's your participation question for today. Here's what I want to know. I want you to name one quality that you think sets you above the competition. And it could be anything. One quality that sets you above the competition. And then give me one quality you think you need to work on, right? This will be good for you as you're starting to. We're going to have you look through some, and we'll do this assignment tomorrow when we start looking at some jobs. I want you to pay attention to, oh, do I have what these people are looking for? You're going to look through these skills that they want you to have. You're going to be looking through technical skills and soft skills. And I want you to take note of that. So right now, it's just taking inventory of yourself. Okay, what's a skill do I think I have? What's one good quality I think I have that may be above the competition? I don't know. You could be speak multiple languages. Maybe you already have a different set of skills, and now this is an extra skill. So you're thinking that you have these multiple skills, and so that kind of sets you above the competition. And then one thing you need to work on. You know, we all have to work on something. That's your question for today. All right. One quality that sets you above the competition, and one you think that you need to improve upon. Sounds good? All right, guys. If you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to see if I can help this student